This session and not to the other GDPR one. This session is on contributing to Drupal. My first question to you would be, have you contributed to Drupal already somehow? Your Drupal core commits, etc. Okay. So maybe you learned something. This talk is about that other part. So I'm João Ventura. I work for Wunder, and we're hiring. Here in Finland, we won this award last year. So if you want to come to work for us, that's that URL. So this talk is about contributing to Drupal. And the normal way that people think about, hey, how do I contribute to Drupal? It's, hey, code, and you can do core, or you can do contrib modules. And code, that's basically what people assume. What I want to say here is, think a bit more widely than that. The Drupal community is built on a lot more than just developers. And we need a lot. All the developers do need a lot contributions from other people. So one of the basic things that the Drupal community does is to meet, to have social gatherings. One of these is, Drupal user groups. I belong to currently I belong to the Drupal user group in Frankfurt. It's called the Rhein-Main Drupal user group. Before that, I was in the Munich Drupal user group, and way before that, at one point I restarted the Lisbon Drupal user group. And there is no, from what I talked with the people around here, there is a Drupal association, but there is no local Helsinki or Tampere user groups. But Mixu wants to create one of these, and you know what would be the best? If one of you guys here in Helsinki would not leave it to Mixu to do it, and if you could take that and leave him to run stuff like camps, like this one. Just a couple of notes on how Drupal user groups usually go. Some of them are very technical, where you have sessions and people come and present, sessions like you've seen these 2 days, but just 1 or 2 per month. Or it's a purely social event where you meet up for some beers, in Germany for some beers. Other places might be tea, coffee, whatever, orange juice, maybe in southern Spain. Or you can make up your own. There's in Frankfurt, we're now thinking about, in Frankfurt we actually switch around these two. So every 2 months there is one of these Stammtisch, which is the social event, and every 2 months alternatively we do some presentations. We're now thinking about introducing a third kind of meetup, which is a tutorial meetup to bring people into the community. So where we do have sessions, but it's not how to install Drupal with Composer or how to do the migrate API, but stuff at more beginner level, like how to create a content type, how to create a view, which the people I meet nowadays, we all know how to do that. But and novices, when they show up, they get these presentations, how to do migrate API. One other thing that you can help to do is a code sprint. A code sprint is really, really easy. it used to be when I first did this talk in a camp in Munich. It used to be that we were still preparing for Drupal 8 to come out, and people were really wanting to sprint to make that out of the door. Nowadays, there's not so much the need to make Drupal 8 better, but there is a lot of need for contrib modules to become better. There are many contrib modules that were very popular in Drupal 7. People want to upgrade in Drupal 6, and people want to upgrade from the Drupal 6 and Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, and they cannot because the module for Drupal 8 is not ready yet. It's, I don't know, maybe completely buggy, and we need people to sprint on those. So if you want to organize a sprint, it's very easy. You have probably some space in your office. Just say, hey, we do a sprint this weekend. Come to our office. There will be pizza or something, and just provide a place and internet and power, and let people self-organize. If you can, go to a DrupalCon, become a sprint mentor. You will learn a few techniques on how you can then run mentored sprints. There will be mentored sprints here tomorrow in this place between 1 and 7. Who's coming? Everybody? Yay! Thank you a lot for coming. The next one here in Finland is going to be June 17 in Tampere. And this nice URL is, well, if you go to drupal.fi, you will find in the footer the link to this. So if you want, go there, participate in a sprint. Or you can help to organize one of these camps. People need this. Usually if you look deep enough, stuff like this gets organized by 4 or 5 persons. It's something that really tires people, and that they will say, okay, we organize this, and for the next 2 years, I don't do it again. So if you want to have a Drupal camp in your region every year, you kind of need to be able to have either a larger team, or that people can alternate between I organize this year, you organize next year, or so that there's no burnout. And because of the burnout, make sure that really these are very stressful times organizing an event like this. At the end, it can get very hectic. Just make sure that everybody doesn't take it personally. Or if you want, you can help with DrupalCon. This is way harder. It used to be DrupalCons back 7 years ago were run by local communities. Nowadays, the Drupal Association runs everything. I mean, it's in the US, there's more than 3,000 people going to DrupalCon. In Europe, it's less. It's almost 2,000, but it's still very expensive. You can still volunteer. They need volunteers to do room monitoring. They need volunteers to tell people how to go to lunch, or they need volunteers for sprint mentoring. And there's a secret. You get a t-shirt usually, and there's a volunteers dinner that you get invited to as well. So it's not all work and no fun. Or at a more meta level, you can help your local Drupal association. Usually there's one in every country. In Finland, it's Drupal Suomi. So you can go here to drupal.fi. Your company can sponsor it. You can become a member. If you're not in Finland, go and look for yours if you don't know it, and well, either join or help. Above country level, there is the Global Drupal Association. Those guys, they create the DrupalCons. They decide where it is. They actually hire people full year to help organize it. They also run the Drupal.org site where we all work, and membership is really cheap. It's only 15 euros. It's another way you can contribute to the community by your membership quota going into Drupal.org helps to pay for the servers that we use to run the project. And well, this used to be my first slide, so we've covered that part. I should have changed this one, sorry. So the next part is translations. In Europe, we have a lot of languages. So each country usually has at least one language. And some countries, here in Finland as well, there's at least quite a lot of people using Swedish as their official language. So if you're fluent in anything other than English, you can really help also both your local community, also your clients, and you can help to translate Drupal. So there's this link here, Drupal.org contribute translation. It tells you how to contribute through with translations. Localized Drupal.org is the server where all the translations actually happen. And there was, for Drupal 7, this amazing module that needs somebody to work on it because it's not working currently. And what this did for Drupal 7, and you can still use it for Drupal 7, it was to provide a nice UI in the site that told you all the strings that could be translated on that page. And you could see with different colors the one that had translations available, the ones that didn't. And you could immediately translate on the fly that string, and you could then see it on your site and upload it to localized Drupal.org. Unfortunately for Drupal 8, there is the module, but it doesn't work. It doesn't save the translations. So if you want to contribute, if you want to sprint tomorrow and you don't know what you could work on, this would be a very good project to work on. Some very brief hints on how the translation happens. Basically, you can have untranslated and translated. Untranslated strings can basically be totally untranslated, have a suggestion, or have no suggestion. There is an approval workflow where once you translate, it doesn't get immediately approved, and that is when it has a suggestion. And this is the part where I do a small demo. So let me see if I can, first of all, so these are the languages, the current state of the translation for the different languages. You can see Hungarian as probably 100%. Yes, they have got 100% translation of core. If you understand Hungarian, if people understand who is working on this, so Gabor Ocsi is the main guy behind the translation effort for Drupal. He is Hungarian, and that's why Hungarian is usually quite up over there. After Hungarian, you've got some languages, and you've got Finnish here, which at the moment has, and I need to hold for a bit, 73%. So there's like 2,000 strings in Drupal core that haven't been translated yet. One of those, I was looking at it. So this is the Drupal 8.3 status report in Finnish. I have very little idea what is written there. When you sell this site to a Finnish client, they will see all of this, and then they will go and see, well, that major text in English, and they will see general system information. I have no idea how to, it should be, that at least general system information should be in Finnish. We all agree, no? So let's do something really fast. Let's translate that. So I can go here to localize Drupal.org and translate it to Finnish. If you go here and click on this link, you get to this page, and you see there's 76 contributors, and you can join the Finnish team. So let me join the Finnish team. Sometimes some teams require some approval, the Finnish team does not. So I am now a member of the Finnish team, even though I do not speak Finnish. And I want to translate general system information. So I can go here to the Finnish translation, click on translate, reveal more filters, contains general system information. And yes, so you can click here and see, yes, general system information is a string that exists in Drupal core 830, and it has not been translated. And I can go to Google Translate and ask him to translate it for me. And you're going to tell me that is not proper Finnish, is it?
It is for Finnish, but
it doesn't mean general system information.
Yeah, I would say more like yleistiedot järjestelmästä tai järjestelmän yleistiedot. I would translate it.
So
it's easy.
I have no idea. So you want to come here? And just type that in.
Okay. Mihin me päädyttiin? Mikä on paras käännös? Järjestelmän yleistiedot.
And now we're going to have a problem with diacritics, most likely.
You don't have the Finnish keyboard as well.
We can add it, maybe. Plus Finnish. Add. And switch to Finnish, and maybe it works.
Yeah.
Does it need to be capitalized?
Yeah, it should be.
Or the first letters? Just the first letter. And not whole. It's not finished.
Okay? So, thank you very much. And I saved the changes. And it should then be that it added the suggestion. So this is not yet going to show up in Drupal.org. Somebody needs to come here and approve this. I can show it to you how it is for another language. So in Portuguese, Portugal, we are way even worse than that. I have here the permission to select one of these. So this is Drupal core, content tendency dependencies. So I really like this one. It's way better than the other suggestions, and I'm going to select that one as the translation and save it. I should do this more often, actually, going and and approving the translation. So that now that one translation has been approved, and this is more or less what somebody will need to do with my suggestion. I will unfortunately get credits, and my colleague there should be the one having it. So go in and do your own suggestion and tell the guys that approve it that they should approve yours and not mine, because I shouldn't have the rights for that. But this is how it works. It's very easy, and if you want to contribute to Drupal in your own language, this is all you need. You just need to know your language. Easy, no?
Can anyone approve the translation? Or
No, it needs to be. So I don't know who is that admin in Finnish. I do know that the creator of the project, it's down here, was Vesa Palmu. I don't know if he's still active on this or not. I don't know. So maybe if you want to contact Vesa, ask him, hey, who is admin? And I would like to become, usually it's if you translate enough, I'm not going to say 18,000 translations, but but if you translate enough, somebody will say, hey, you're really committed to helping with this effort, so we will allow you to become a moderator. And usually you cannot approve your own things unless you get to a level where you can. I can in Portuguese. I don't, but I could. And somebody must be at that level also, other than Vesa for Finnish.
And only one approval is needed.
Yeah.
Translate it.
Yeah, I mean it should be. It's not that complicated, and it's not forever. It's not like, oh my God, I did a mistake and I approved this translation. It's wrong. No, you can switch it. I can go back and say, oh, I prefer the other translations. The suggestions that you did not approve, they don't get deleted unless you delete them. There was a little icon on the right to delete a suggestion, which is basically for maintenance. It's like, oh, this guy went to Google Translate and he typed in random shit, and it doesn't even speak Finnish, and he's trying to say that he wants to translate. Some of those, I'm not saying the one that has 18,000 translations is one of those. In Portuguese, we had some guy that basically dumped the strings into a file, went into Google, did a translation, and then copy-pasted them into this interface somehow, and he had like 3,000 translations before we started noticing he didn't really speak the language. Somebody was approving him, maybe some friend of him or whatever. Yeah, so that was the demo on translations. Documentation, that's another one that doesn't need a lot of effort. So it even is better nowadays. So documentation in Drupal.org used to be completely English. It used to be completely English, the site. There is now support for documentation in multiple languages. If you're a beginner, we really want you to look at the documentation. That link over there on Contribute Documentation is the one that has a guide on how you can contribute to documentation. Once you log into Drupal.org, there should be a lot of pages with an edit button. So this is the second demo. So if I go to Drupal.org, and this is my page. Well, actually, you probably don't have access to edit this one. Let me actually put it into full screen, and it's still in Finnish. Sorry. But if you go to some other pages on documentation, you should have the edit link over there, and then you can edit the documentation. So, for instance, one that is that needs a lot of help is the Drupal 8 user guide. So this one, as you can see, it now has translations into Catalan, Hungarian, Spanish, Ukrainian, I have no idea, and French. And if you're a beginner, really come here, just open one of these, and if you think that something can be improved, you should have. Actually, I don't have an edit button here. Okay, so because these are ASCII docs. Some others you can edit in their wiki pages in Drupal.org, others not. And it's very easy. Nowadays, I think a lot, you follow all the wiki pages, you don't need to be in the documentation team. When I got into the documentation team was one of these things. I saw an error in one page. I sent an email to WebChick saying, hey, there's an error, and somebody should correct it. And I get a reply basically saying, welcome to the documentation team. You now have the privileges to edit the site. She was a big recruiter for the documentation team. And Keynote, so. But, okay, so we've talked about social aspects, how to organize communities. We talked about contributing through language translations. We talked about documentation. But there is still the code thing. How do you contribute with code? So at code level, the way we manage bugs in Drupal, they are in the Drupal.org issue queues, and you need to understand this, both for core and contrib modules. The bugs exist there, and they go through, they are a lot. So like there's this guy, Dave Reed, he's got like 200 projects, all of them very popular. He clearly cannot answer all issues. And I remember, for instance, when before views was in Drupal core, the Earl Miles, Merlin of Chaos, he had a team working for him for sorting out through the views issue queue. Some of these issues are actually bugs. Some of them are, hey, I'd like to learn how to do this. You, as a beginner, you can maybe also help to understand, to solve these kind of issues. You can go in, oh, this guy has got the same issue as I have. I'm going to ask someone for help. If you figure it out, go back to that issue that you found that didn't have the answer, reply to it, and maybe even improve the documentation of the module so that the next time nobody's asking, or if somebody's asking, how do I do this? Somebody can just point them, it's here in the module documentation, that specific case. The issue queue workflow, this is, usually you see it just as active, needs work, needs review, RTBC, which is reviewed and tested by the community, and fixed and closed. Closed has several different substates, but this is most issues, especially in core, they start out as a bug. Somebody does something, they mark it as needs review. Immediately it gets, somebody reviews it and says, no, it needs more work. I haven't seen it in Drupal core specifically. I think I have never seen one that this goes directly from needs review to needs work. And then usually they get iterating on needs work, needs review, up to the point where it's good, and somebody says it's been reviewed and tested by the community. If you come here tomorrow to the sprints and you work, you're a beginner, maybe the mentoring, what the mentor is going to tell you is, let's start you out by having you look at issues that need reviews. And basically what you're going to do is run Drupal core, reproduce the steps, see that the bug exists, apply the patch, see that the bug is gone, and then say, hey, I reviewed it, and I'm part of the community, so it's been reviewed and tested by the community. And at one point, the maintainer comes and says, hey, I've committed it to the code, to Git, and it's been fixed, and the system will automatically close stuff after 2 weeks. This is how it usually goes in core. Sometimes, like, it's somebody, the maintainer tries and he cannot reproduce the problem, or it's somebody couldn't specify the steps. They basically go from active to closed. There's one closed which is closed, cannot reproduce. There's another which is outdated. I was very happy when Drupal 8 came out, because I had in one of my modules like 50 issues for the Drupal 6 version of the module, and I just went there and said closed, outdated, and I'm never looking at those issues again. Unfortunately, for all the people that are actually still using that module in Drupal 6. So once you know how this is, you're ready to go into the issue queues, help out people. If you have a module in Drupal.org, this is more or less how you should proceed through the stuff. Usually, if you're providing a patch, you're going to set it to needs review, and you never mark reviewed and tested by the community yourself. There's only one case, I think, especially for Drupal core, where it goes from active to reviewed and tested by the community by you, which is, well, if you remove yourself from the maintainer's file, basically saying I stopped working on Drupal core. Other than that, it iterates here for a while before it goes down the workflow. Yeah, the iterating for a while. So there's 2 ways that you can try to contribute to Drupal. There's core. That's the I wouldn't say the elite, but it's clearly the one project that has a lot of visibility. If you went to DrupalCon Barcelona, there was this nice thing on the floor with the name of everybody that contributed a patch to Drupal 8, and you could see your name in there if you were one of those lucky 3,000 people. Contrib is usually much less visible, but it's a lot easier to work on. So if you're heavily using a module and you see that the maintainer is looking for maintainers or sub-maintainers, this is one where you are not going through so much iterations on needs review and needs work, which is very frequent in Drupal core. Here it's, oh, I tested it, it works, I'll just commit it. So it's a lot easier to start with contrib at this level than here. On the other end, Drupal core usually, if you upgrade, doesn't break you. And here, yeah, that depends on how many automated tests the contrib module has. And finally, so we run Drupal. It's not running directly on the machine. We are using a lot of open source projects below us. So there's, let's start at the bottom. So there's all these new frameworks and libraries that we use to build Drupal. jQuery, Symfony, Composer, AngularJS. You can also help on those projects, especially if you're looking at diversifying from Drupal and you're going to be working a lot in Symfony, or you're moving to the new headless Drupal, and you're doing just basically front-end sites. You can move into AngularJS, React, or Node.js or whatever, and also help those projects which are as open source as Drupal, the community is a lot smaller. It also needs your help. Well, some of these, they are also PHP. They're all written in PHP, like Drupal. PHP itself, the language, is also an open source project. It's written in C. So there's this funny thing which I worked on and reported the bug to PHP a long time ago, and I just got a reply, funnily enough, last week. Parse URL basically is a PHP function that you can ask, hey, can you parse me this URL and decompose it into like schema and the host name and the query and the path, and it's very common. Can somebody try and guess what parse URL tell? So if you don't know, tell is supposedly the schema for a telephone number. If you try to have it parse URL tell 911, what do you think it does and what do you think it should do? Anyone? Well, in my particular use case, since you're all so shy, in my particular use case, the idea is in Drupal, there's this new telephone field, and which uses parse URL with tell. And if you want to put in an emergency number there in that field, like 911 or 112 in Europe, you're kind of expecting that it will parse URL and verify that it is indeed a telephone number and accept it. If you try that in Drupal, this won't work because PHP itself is broken. Yeah, it might be that Drupal already works, but the original bug, it didn't, because PHP itself is broken. And what it tries is it parses this as connecting to the host called tel on port 911. So if here instead of tel 911 was localhost colon 8080, you would understand why it decided to parse it like that. It cannot tell the difference between tel 911 and localhost 8080. So it tries to connect. It tries to verify it as localhost, and then as localhost as a host name plus a port number. There's also MySQL, MariaDB, it's the database. MariaDB is, if you're interested in helping that, it's written in C and C++. It's being worked on here in Helsinki, so you can actually maybe see the guy that is doing it. There's Apache and Nginx. I don't know a lot about the internals of those. I just know that they're in C. And then there's the biggest open source project of them all, which is Linux. It's really hard to get into. Most Linux contributors are full-time professional open source developers working on the kernel because their company is depending on it. So both like the Linux distros like Canonical for Ubuntu and Red Hat for Red Hat and Fedora. And there's also big companies, IBM and others that base their business a lot on Linux, and they're paying people to just fix their problems. And it's also written in C or assembly, which is fun, but if you know it, well, there are bugs in Linux that need to be fixed, and sometimes we see them. So feel free to also support that. You can also support Drupal by supporting these projects in which Drupal is built on. Well, basically that's my last call. You can be a Drupal hero. You can help whichever way you want, or you can to make Drupal project better. I hope tomorrow you come to the sprints. You can sprint in code, or you can sprint in documentation, or you can sprint in translations, or you can just come and hang outside and have a coffee with people. But, well, the community is built on people that participate, and we need all heroes. And that was my final slide. So if anyone has any questions. If anybody has questions, I can give away one nice water bottle. You got a water bottle.
Thank you.
Was that the question? I want a water bottle.
No, I have a question too. I was contributing to the translation of our language at some point, but the guy who approves the translation is not active for 5 years.
Okay.
So my translation haven't been approved.
Talk.
What could we do in those cases, like the
Talk.
one who are supposed to approve it
Talk.
left the project, or
Yeah, that happens. I mean, the Finnish guy, he used to be the CEO of Wunder. I don't think he works in Drupal anymore. Vesa Palmu. There are probably admins at a lower level. It depends a lot on how your country team is structured. If your translations have not been approved for many years, then there's a serious problem there. And if no other administrators are around, because people move, it's quite normal. I myself, I never been through that process personally, but I think if you talk with Gaborochi, he will be able to change permissions. And if you've got 100, 200, 300 translations, you should be able to ask him, hey, I have all these, they haven't been approved in 5 years, no one did, all the admins for the language are gone, and I want to help here. He can, yeah, I'm pretty sure he can assign you the project or someone. But then, if you get that, do not leave, ever. or at least when you leave, think about passing on your rights to someone else. But thank you a lot for helping there. We definitely need all the help. Anyone else? I've got another water bottle. You just need to clean it. No? Okay. So thank you very much for showing up, and I hope you all enjoy the party later tonight. And thank you for all the sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to be here.